Hello, my name is Patricia LaBrosse, and I'm the current chairperson of the Louisiana Nurses Political Action Committee. We're conducting interviews with candidates for our state legislation representatives and the state senators. We wanted to learn more about where the candidates stand on issues that we believe are important for the health and welfare of our citizens and for our nursing profession. We solicited input from the nurse community of our state, and then the Board of Trustees compiled a 6-item questionnaire to send out to the candidates. So today, I am delighted to welcome Belinda Davis, who is a candidate for District 68 for the House of Representatives. That district encompasses, in the Baton Rouge area, encompasses City Park, 100 Oaks. I'm not sure what that means. I guess, is that a street or is that an area?
It's part of a neighborhood. It's
okay, part of a neighborhood. And Perkins to Bluebonnet, and then it's North and South Perkins. It's a very comprehensive district. She's one of 5 running, and there are no incumbents. So at this point, I want to welcome Belinda Davis, and I'll start asking the questions. The first question is on health disparities. Prior to COVID-19, we recognize that healthcare services are not accessible on an equitable basis, either nationally or in Louisiana. Healthcare is only 20% of what accounts for one's health status, and the social determinants of health are non-medical factors that influence our health outcomes. What strategies do you have to assist with reducing social determinants of health impact on the citizens of Louisiana?
So first, I teach a class called The Politics of Poverty at LSU, where I'm a professor, where I talk about the social determinants of health. I believe that a strong social safety net, along with a living wage, are necessary to reduce the impact of these determinants on the citizens of Louisiana. We also know that adverse childhood experiences play a major role in determining health status as an adult. Mental and behavioral health for our state's children is necessary to reduce the health risks associated with ACEs. As a member of BESI, I've worked hard to secure the largest investment in mental and behavioral health in our state's history, and I believe that I can do the same as a legislator in addressing the social determinants of health.
Thank you. Next question has to do with our nursing education in Louisiana and our faculty shortage. How would you advocate for federal and state funding to support the recruitment and retention of nursing faculty to reduce our nursing shortage?
Louisiana has a terrible track record of leaving federal matching funds on the table because they are unwilling to spend state dollars. With your help, I would like to identify federal programs that will match state investments and work tirelessly to convince my fellow legislators that we cannot afford to squander those resources when they are desperately needed in our state. As a BESI member, I worked alongside members of business and industry and workforce development to create pathways for high school students who are interested in pursuing careers in healthcare. Sadly, the legislature refused to pass permanent funding increases in the MFP that would have allowed for greater investments in these pathways by our local school districts. So I would advocate for funding that would allow high schoolers to explore these options, especially earning college credits while in high school to speed up their process of entering the healthcare workforce.
Thank you. Next question has to do with violence safety. Gun violence continues to roar through our communities, in our schools, our houses of worship, shopping malls, grocery stores, outdoor gatherings, etc., etc., etc. What factors do you see as critical to bringing an end to these senseless acts? Do you have a strategy to address this problem?
Well, first, I'm opposed to legislation that advances permitless carry. I support legislation that removes firearms from those with mental health issues that might lead them to be a danger to themselves and others. I support legislation that removes firearms from those with domestic violence charges and convictions. And finally, I support a more robust behavioral and mental health intervention for young people before they become perpetrators of gun violence. I'm also for common sense restrictions on semi-automatic weapons. And I'll also say that, I've recently been reading evaluation research on gun safety courses for young children, and the overwhelming research says that they're ineffective, and that what we really need to be targeting are their parents and having them pursue safe gun storage that keeps kids from accidentally injuring themselves or teenagers from accessing firearms in a fit of anger and using them with irrevocable consequences. So I would be very much in favor of pursuing legislation and policies and programs that would target adults and responsible storage of their guns.
Thank you. The second piece of that particular question has to do with rapid fentanyl strips. They can be used to determine if drugs have been mixed or cut with fentanyl. With important information about fentanyl, healthcare providers can take steps to reduce the community risk of overdose. How would you support legislation to make rapid fentanyl test strips more readily accessible?
Well, first, let me say that I would be happy to author such legislation in conjunction with your group so that we could identify best practices around how these strips ought to be made readily available in communities. And I think these strips, they save lives, and we are in a crisis situation, not only in Louisiana, around the country. And this is certainly a policy area that is not only worthy of our time and investigation, but also expenditures.
Thank you. Next question, access to care. Are you supportive of actions to remove arbitrary barriers that prevent all healthcare practitioners, including advanced practice nurses, from practicing to the full extent of their education, licensure, and training?
Yes, I am. And I looked at some of your resources, and I would be really interested in hearing from your group around whether or not you're interested in pursuing kind of a resolution that would allow for a holistic assessment of the barriers that are in place in the state of Louisiana, and then also that could investigate best practices in other states to remove those barriers from your practice.
I'm taking notes.
Okay.
Okay. The last two questions are more general. The first one is, what are your legislative priorities?
The first would be increasing funding for early childhood education, K-12 education, and university education, which I believe helps address many of our state's problems, in particular related to poverty, which in turn influences folks' access to care. So I would love to see us focus on education, also raising the minimum wage to a living wage. And then another kind of related to things that your groups is particularly interested in, we need to increase the Medicaid reimbursement rate. So the Medicaid reimbursement rate keeps many practitioners across the state of Louisiana from participating in the program, which is a huge barrier to access across the state. And then we need to find legislative solutions to help address the nursing shortage that our state is facing, as well as our home healthcare worker shortage, right, which is only going to increase as our population ages. And then also finding legislative solutions to address the property insurance crisis that's facing our state. There's a lot to do. We have a lot of big problems.
Yes. So the last piece, why should the Louisiana nursing community support you as the best candidate for this legislative seat?
Many of your questions focus on areas that I address as a public policy scholar. I believe in data-driven solutions and in the value of making decisions that are informed by experts in the field. You don't have to convince me that SODH is a real thing. All of this research supports the link between these social determinants and healthcare outcomes, right? The research is there. Healthcare programs that do not address these issues will always fall short of their goal of widespread improvement in healthcare outcomes among our state's most vulnerable and our most marginalized communities. Finally, the difficulty we've had in finding home healthcare workers to help us care for my dad in our own home was incredibly stressful for my family. Additionally, the hospice nurses who assisted us in his final days were instrumental in allowing us to keep him at home and with his family as he passed away. They taught me the skills that I needed to change him and his bedding while alone, and I will be forever grateful to those nurses and practitioners for their support and their willingness to teach me what I needed to know. I've always known that nurses were the unsung heroes of our healthcare system and the medical profession, but my dad's end-of-life experience made that knowledge a lived experience. So I'm grateful to all that nurses do for us. I'm sorry for getting a little emotional.
No, and we're sorry for your loss.
Thank you. He was a wonderful, wonderful dad. So he will be missed.
So at this time, I'm going to give you a couple minutes, roughly 2, to just wrap up and tell us, give us some closing remarks. Tell us again who you are, why we should vote for you, whatever you want us to know.
Sure. So I am a native of Baton Rouge, and I returned home to Louisiana 18 years ago because my husband and I wanted to raise our family raise our children close to family. I believe that we have too many of our young people leaving the state of Louisiana, and that's because we are not focused on Louisiana families and the quality of life that they are experiencing. So my policy agenda is explicit in its focus on improving the lives of families in the state of Louisiana. A big part of that is healthcare access. I think that I could be a real advocate for your group around the social determinants of healthcare, in part because I already have a pretty good depth of knowledge around the meaning of the term, and then also the state of research out there around how social determinants influence health outcomes. And so I'm not somebody that you're going to have to convince about kind of the importance of that in improving health outcomes in Louisiana. So, I mean, we're in bad shape, especially from maternal care all the way, to our indices around our children that are born at risk. So I would welcome the opportunity to work with your group. I have a very good shot of winning this seat. And so I just need the support of groups like yours to help me get the message out about my candidacy.
Well, thank you. So once again, I've been interviewing Belinda Davis, who is in competition for District 68 House of Representatives. And we thank you for your time, and we wish you good luck in your campaign.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys surveying me, and then also the chance to do this interview. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't go away yet.
Okay.
Hold on.